meeting.
Let me, I can't, you're the one, you tell me.
Oh,
Not the other way around.
I'm ready to start the
Okay,
meeting.
so give me just one moment to start the recordings.
Okay. You can sit for a minute.
Might as well, I'm already up.
Is it going to be difficult to get up again?
Huh?
Chair Mattson, are we ready to call the meeting to order?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes. Yes, we're ready to begin. Sorry.
Okay, I want to call the meeting to order of the Open Space Active Transportation Sustainability Commission at 6:33. And I'd like to have the pledge. Barry, would you like, since you're ready, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Yes, Youth Commissioner Catherine Bitt,
Present.
Commissioner Debbie Chavaria,
Present.
Commissioner Sean Hughes is not here at the moment, Commissioner Barry Christian,
Here.
Vice Chair Tara McClinton Horner,
Here.
Chair Nance Mattson.
Here. Thank you. And there are no presentations tonight. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have anything?
Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment on anything not on the agenda? Okay, and we don't have anyone on Zoom.
Next, the consent calendar, the minutes of August 6th. Did anybody have any corrections or changes?
I'll move to approve.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Moment. Yes. Commissioner Debbie Chavaria,
I approve.
Commissioner Sean Hughes is absent, Commissioner Barry Christian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Tara McClinton Horner,
Yes.
Chair Nance Mattson.
Yes. Okay, and we have one business item, mapping sustainable policies in the general plan. And Planning Director Brent Cooper is here to discuss it with us.
Well, good evening. Is my microphone on?
Oh, Nance, you have to press the button.
Yes, it's on now.
All right. Well, good evening. Brent Cooper. I'm the Community Development Director. And pleased to be here tonight to talk about the general plan, which was adopted by the City Council on May 20 this year. So it's just a freshly updated general plan. And in it, there are a lot of policies that address sustainability issues. So I have a brief presentation and look forward to an interesting conversation. So just perhaps a reminder for some, what is a general plan? General plan is a comprehensive long-term policy document for the future of the city and the way it will evolve over time with a horizon about 2040. Although before then, the general plan is expected to be updated to stay current with our goals for a future city. All of our regulatory ordinances and policies, capital improvement plans, things that Public Works builds, all needs to be consistent with the goal of the general plan. So it's really a very broad, overreaching policy document, but very powerful for the way in which the city grows. And I'll have some examples here later in the presentation. The general plan itself is broken up into different topics. They're called elements, and I won't get into all of them, but it's a very broad-reaching span of issues that it will address. And the general plan also includes appendices for some very specific policy documents, such as the bicycle master plan, pedestrian master plan, and recently, back in the end of last year, the Napa County Airport has its own land use plan, and by law, the city's plans and it needs to coincide and correlate. And so the city adopted the county's airport master plan, land use plan, into our general plan. And then the whole thing is wrapped up under an environmental review called the Program Environmental Impact Report. What makes it programmatic is it includes measures called mitigation measures that would apply to new development. So it's contemplating the development in the city and saying, here's how we might address one issue or another that affects the environment. And so there's a whole menu of them available so that when new development comes, we don't have to start from scratch and wonder what effect it might have on the environment. The general plan study area includes all land that might be affected by city policy. And so the broadest area is the city's water service area. The city serves water well outside the city boundary, and this boundary predates the city incorporation. So in the beginning, there was the water district, and then there was the city. The city is smaller than the water district, although as we annex property and grow our city boundary, of course, we're filling in there, but it's much bigger than the city is expected to be itself. But when there are users in this area, they come to the city to get their water service. In 2008, there was an initiative circulated that was successfully passed in American Canyon called an urban limit line. And so this boundary is larger than the city's corporate limits, but it's an area that the city and the county negotiated as being a reasonable boundary for the city between now and the year 2030. When the 2030 comes, it will expire. And so, but that's an area that's smaller than the water district, but bigger than the city limits. In state law, there is a boundary around every city called a sphere of influence. And this is a term that's used to describe areas where the state, through its land use laws, has determined it's logical to add into the city. And it's really meant to be property that should be annexed in to the city in about a 5, maybe 10-year term. So not way out in the future, but affected by that. What makes the sphere of influence interesting is it is decided by the Napa County Local Agency Formation Commission. Every county in the state has one, and its mission is to prevent sprawl of cities. So it contains them through this sphere of influence. Eventually, we may annex all the property in our sphere of influence, and then the city boundary and the sphere will be the same. But for now, there is a little area, I don't know if you can see it or not on the map, with a purple hatch, where there is some area that's in our sphere of influence we haven't yet annexed. So kind of jumping into the sustainability policies, there is a table that was part of the staff report. I have some copies here on the counter where sustainable is perhaps somewhat of a subjective term. And you could look at the general plan in total, because it's meant to have responsible growth. I mean, the whole thing in itself is meant to be a sustainable document. Although, as I mentioned, there's a lot of different topics in there. And so some lend themselves more to sustainability perhaps than others. I made a judgment call and came up with 232. And so there's a 14-page matrix here of what all those sustainable policies are. And I sorted them also into topic areas. And so we have that as well, if that helps. But here are the areas where it covers. There's about 10 or 12 different topics where sustainable policies and programs would be effective. So I mentioned earlier that the general plan guides, and everything that is adopted after that point needs to be consistent with the general plan. And so examples of what I might be talking about include specific plans. So the one that we're seeing a lot of happening right now is the Watson Ranch. it's being built out in accordance with a specific plan. So when that's adopted, there is an actual determination through our official adoption documents that describes how it's consistent with the general plan. The area that we're in here is called the Broadway District Specific Plan. The same thing is true there. Municipal ordinances of one kind or another. I have some examples a little bit in the next couple slides. Design guidelines, general plan policies, ongoing development decisions. You know, we get subdivisions. We have one going to the Planning Commission this month for condominiums, Crawford and Highway 29. Design permits, that would be each of these shopping centers and residential subdivisions. There's an application called a design permit. Its purpose is to show how the project meets all of our development standards. And then if there are mitigation measures and some of these programmatic measures, they're also added to that approval as well. And then, as I mentioned, public works, capital improvements. So when they make road improvements, park improvements, all of these things, they all need to be consistent with the general plan. And so before the capital improvement plan is adopted, the Public Works Department will make a visit to the Planning Commission and present it and have their, in a sense, blessing that it meets the purposes of the general plan. And that's also consistent with state law that requires all these things to kind of be talking the same thing. One of the examples I have where an ordinance has to be consistent with the general plan is a fairly recent one. Well, it feels recent. It might not be. A couple of years ago now, I guess, where there's a fuel station moratorium in American Canyon. So the fuel stations that we have sell gasoline. There can be no more. And the gasoline stations we have can't expand. There's a gas station at, for example, at Donaldson Way at Highway 29, and they wanted to add diesel as one of their products. And they were a little slow because they proposed it right after adoption and the fuel station moratorium became effective. And I'm like, sorry, that's an expansion of your service. You can't sell diesel. So they're upset, but they accepted it. But that is the ordinance. And so when this was proposed, at the time we had the old general plan because the new one was adopted in May. The old one, which was adopted in the 90s, although there have been amendments, had no policies that related to climate change. And so before the city could adopt a gas station moratorium ordinance, we had to go back and amend the general plan and add policies that spoke to the need to address climate change. And once that was in place, then you have a legal basis to adopt a fuel station moratorium. Up here on Oat Hill, you can see the apartments being constructed today. That was once zoned and general plan for industrial development. Not sure what they were thinking. Industrial doesn't seem to lend itself to a hillside, but nevertheless, it had to be changed in order for the housing to be approved. So that would be another example of the general plan being amended in order to facilitate a project that I think everyone agreed was a better choice than industrial. I think it also speaks to the need for the general plan to be amended when there are new and good ideas that everyone thinks is the right thing to do. Another policy that was fairly recently adopted is one called vehicle miles traveled. And what the idea here is that when we don't accommodate pedestrian and bicycle, and we have great distances between where we live and where we shop and work, and we don't have transit, everyone has to drive a car. And so if we can do land use planning in a manner where we make it more convenient to be able to walk or bike or take transit to things, services and places that we go on a frequent basis, then we don't have to drive so much. And so this is a way of being able to reduce the dependence on the automobile and air pollution that comes from that, because most of the greenhouse gases in California do come from transportation sources. So there's a variety of sustainable initiatives that's in the works today, and these have policies in the general plan that help support them. And so one of the most, I think, broad-based one is the Napa County Regional Climate and Adaptation Plan. And that should be coming forward in the new calendar year. So we're almost done with this one. And so in early, sometime in the next year, that should be making its way through. But there are extensive changes. It calls for ordinance changes and education and programs, and there's a lot that goes along with that. The Napa Valley Transportation Authority is updating the bicycle and pedestrian master plans, and it'll be combined under an active transportation plan. So we'll have one plan that has both of those instead of two. That's another one that will be coming forward in the new calendar year. I think we're all very excited about the Napa River Ecological Center. It's one of the greatest things to happen in American Canyon. And so the city has supported that. It's on property that's owned by the city. There's, I guess, self-explanatory. There is a new state law that requires places like us who are next to the bay to adopt a shoreline adaptation plan. And so that was another sustainable initiative happening. The deadline for that is 2035. And so that may seem like a long time, but adapting to the shoreline is a very complicated scientific exercise to begin with, to evaluate what that means for us, and then how do we make changes to the way our city is configured so that we don't all drown, I guess. All of that requires money. So there is efforts afoot to get a grant to help pay for consultants to help us evaluate what needs to be done. So there's a lot of work to be done. It's a very important issue that we'll be talking about for years. And then Highway 29. Today, I don't think you could have a less sustainable, in an environmental sense, highway. Although in the 1950s, Caltrans had a freeway plan for American Canyon. So there are parcels along here. Rio Del Mar, there's one over here at Napa Junction Road, where Caltrans acquired land for the on-ramps to the freeway. So if you think about the city of Napa, they were going to do that here. Mercifully, that didn't happen, but we are stuck with a 4-lane highway with 55-mile-an-hour speed limit and 50, which isn't good for our town. And so the Highway 29 project initiation document is building upon policies that our city has been working on for over 10 years to have either roundabouts or conventional signalized intersections along here, together with pedestrian and bicycle facilities, transit, and landscaping, although engineers never seem to find room for landscaping. So that's your job, to make sure they put that in there. Right? You're going to do that, right? You're going to make them.
Can I ask
Yeah,
a
'cause-
question about that then?
Sure.
Is that something we do at the time, or is that something that policy needs to be adopted or initiated to make that happen?
There is landscaping in the description of the project today. There is, currently it's undergoing environmental review, and the landscaping needs to be in there. In the
needs-
environmental review, they got to talk about landscaping.
Okay, so that's somewhere where we can advocate.
It's this is a project that will be approved and decided by the Napa Valley Transportation Authority Board, which is not our city council. We have council representation on there. The city's a partner in that, so we have a lot of influence, but it is not a project of the city. So you have to be an advocate. Because, when it comes to construction projects, a lot of time the landscaping gets cut because the budget's always, they never have enough money for the budget, right? There's always a cost overrun, whatever the case may be. There's always the landscaping that gets the hits, so you got to keep your eyes on that.
Thank you.
The highway itself, defines American Canyon, and landscaping is just a beautiful way of being able to make the city look comfortable and great. Apart from the fact that it catches dust, the leaves and trees capture dust. Of course, they take in carbon. There's all kinds of benefits for it. So I've been watching out for it, but this thing is going to take years to get done. I may still be here, but it's always good to have advocates as well in influential places. Other projects that are pretty exciting is updating the Newell Management Plan, the open space, one of our jewels of American Canyon. We have policies in the general plan that support that. So, and then also our friends in the Parks Department are updating the Parks and Community Services Master Plan. And so, we all know that we're getting greater heat events, speaking to adaptation, and playground equipment gets hot, a lot of it's metal, and it's a place where people can go to relax and enjoy themselves. And so having shade and tree cover and the like just makes it a nicer place to be. And we have general plan policies, of course, that support that. So one of the tasks that we have that we provide once a year around February and March, we pair it along with our housing element annual report. These are all required by state law. The general plan annual review is a requirement to review the policies in the general plan and talk about how they've been implemented. And so there are a lot of policies, and we don't do them all, but some of the highlighted projects, and we point to where in the general plan this is supported, is a report that we do every year. The packet today has a copy of last year's report. And so Chair Mattson had mentioned tracking, and now that we have this great list here of sustainable policies, let's not just finish this conversation tonight. Let's keep this alive and make a note of them. And while it, along with all the other policies, would be folded into an annual review, what we could do is specifically kind of make this a little special and have a section on sustainability and include that in our general plan update. And I know I'm not just speaking for the OSAS Commission. The council itself was, when the general plan was adopted, wanted to make sure that sustainability was front and center in the general plan. And we kind of reformatted some of the ways the elements were labeled and described to help highlight that. And so I know that everyone is speaking consistently in this regard. So that is something that could definitely be accomplished. And then we have kind of an annual update along with that. So with that, I know that you all have your questions and things you'd like to talk about, and you're probably getting tired of hearing me. So I'm glad to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, so we're going to start with commissioner comments and maybe top-level clarifications. We'll see how deep we go, and then we're going to open it for public comment and then go back to the commission. Commissioner Christian?
Thanks for the presentation. It's always enlightening. As I was trying to get ready for this meeting, I was thinking about sustainability, and it seems like a really broad subject. So on the last slide you had there, you're talking about sustainability. I forget what it was. Track and highlight sustainability accomplishments. And I think that's looking at climate change. Mm-hmm. But when I think of sustainability, what's come up on the national debate lately is that America doesn't have enough rare earths and metals, magnets. Mm-hmm. So that puts us at odds with China because they control 90% of the current existing rare earths, metals, and magnets. And so we're finding out, okay, we can't compete technologically without those. So to me, that's a sustainability issue. How do we sustain our economy without those metals? It could be something like families in American Canyon? Do we create housing so that young families can afford to live here and raise their kids here and go to school here? So I can think of tons of different things that it encompasses everything really. And you proved that with your attachment today. These different ones come from all 10 chapters, it looks like,
They do.
of there. So it's just, and I don't know exactly what city council had in mind when they talked about sustainability. So I'm on the OSATs, but I'm not sure what sustainability exactly means. I'll take it at this point that, okay, I'll take it at its broadest point and say, okay, well, all this is sustainability and I'll go with that. But I'm just putting it out there that I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, shoes and bicycles, as far as I know, don't have much, if any, rare earths.
Right.
So, I mean, you make a good point about rare earth metals being a key component to advancing automobiles into electric, and it comes with its own challenges as well.
Computers
that
and
are
weapons,
computers
defense,
in our modern life.
our security.
It kind of blows your mind when you think about all of the connections.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at what is it that we can do that's under our control to do the best we can to become carbon neutral and to reduce our footprint on the world, both here perhaps and consequentially maybe in China. I mean these metals are coming from somewhere, and they have their environmental consequences, and depending on countries with lax environmental rules may make us feel good that we have an electric car, but there's a consequence to it. And so to the extent that we can make our community one where we can control things, where we use automobiles less, whatever kind they are, and then that's just transportation alone. I mean, it's all aspects of our lives where we're looking at things. On the news not too long ago, I saw that there is a library. You think about libraries, I go check out a book. Well, this was a library where you can go check out tools and things, and appliances, and they're like, what a beneficial thing it is, because if you think about, I have a need and for a tool, but I only need it for this project, and I can't take it back, or I shouldn't take it back. But so you go borrow one from somewhere. There is a sustainable. These are sort of low-tech things that all kind of add up to us looking at what can we do as individuals and as a city collectively to just have a smaller footprint is I think a way of keeping ourselves from our minds blowing up.
So it's not just that the planet's heating up or that the water's going to rise up, but I think you sound like you agree that sustainability really encompasses a lot of different subjects, and so I don't know if that's our mandate for this commission, but I think if there's something that we come up with and say, hey, we think this is, we'll look at the policy and say, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I know that I have a bit of a perspective, proudly served American Canyon for 17 years, and I can think about maybe a correlation in terms of outreach, right? Back 17 years ago, there was limited ways in which we provided information to our community. And there was a recognition that people don't know what's happening, and how can we do better at helping everyone understand what we're doing, and then in turn getting their input on our decision-making process so that we make better decisions that are more relevant and useful for people who live here. And so there's been a whole ethic over outreach and engagement that is continuing. Recently, Ali Akeda, she's a director now. The whole communication function in the city has been elevated to a higher level, and she's doing a great job, and there's so many more resources. And so that is just, it becomes a way in which we do business. And I would apply the same thing to sustainability when we think about what is it that we can do differently that is of a sustainable nature. And these things don't come easy. They take time to think about it, but they do need a lot of smart people like you and others to help guide us on what's the right thing to do. And I would point to a better parks master plan is going to lead to more sustainable policies than what might have been done in the past. The same is true for Newell. The same is true for adaptation. All of these things are efforts that we're taking to think about how we do things better and more sustainable. And, you know, there is no limit to what this list could be, if you think about it. Here's a list, but that's great, and we'll accomplish those. And over time, even they could be better. But there are, I'm sure, many, it's limited only to your imagination of what could be done that's better for sustainability. Because it is a very, very broad topic.
And sustainability is in one of the titles of the chapters, right? There's it's
It is.
environment, culture, and sustainability.
Right.
So that if it's in the title of a or those 10 things are the policies?
Oh, elements.
Elements, yeah.
Element.
If it's in the title of an element, then it's kind of a determinant or strong characteristic of the city.
It is. It was one of the goals of the
guiding
council.
principle.
Sort of, there are sustainable policies throughout the general plan, and the council said we need to kind of maybe aggregate them into an element. But all of the elements have sustainable policies, but this one in particular has more focus towards climate change.
Okay. Thanks, Brent.
Thanks. Okay, I screwed up with who had wanted to speak. I think that Vice Chair McClinton Horner had actually come in pretty early, so am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I can't remember, Youth Commissioner Bidd, had you also asked to speak?
I don't think I asked previously, but I would like to ask a question.
Okay, so we're going to go to Vice Chair McClinton Horner first, and you'll be third in line.
Okay.
Thanks.
I have a few questions on what some of the things mean in here. Policy H 9.2 on page 3 refers to 15% sustainable development, encourage sustainable development, and ensure at a minimum that the design of development is 15% more efficient than state laws. How is that number? How did you come up with that?
This actually came about from earlier environmental impact reports. The first time that it emerged was in the approval of Napa Junction 3, where Tractor Supply is located, that center over there. And so it was a threshold that was adopted to help meet with air quality standards. And so that was brought forward into the Oat Hill project, the apartments, and it was also included into the Broadway District Specific Plan. There is a similar policy in the Watson Ranch Specific Plan. And so since we have been doing it on a case-by-case basis, it seemed sensible to just bring it in as a policy citywide.
Can I ask this related question? Is that Title 24 or is that another law?
The state law in California is Title 24,
Okay,
and
it's
so
not
this would be,
not in addition to Title 24 then?
it's 15% better than Title 24.
Yeah. I was just trying to figure out when you're talking about vehicle miles traveled, how that comes out of Title 24, and I wasn't sure. So,
Oh, I see what you mean.
yeah. I get the energy part of it.
Yes.
Title
Well, there's
24 is
more
the
than one
building
way
energy code.
to help solve that. So it could very well be that VMT reductions, being able to incorporate that into your project could also be another way of helping with reduce air quality emissions through transportation versus air quality emissions through energy production.
Okay, so they're in the same section, but they're not directly related in
Correct,
terms of how
yeah.
they're implemented.
They're
Okay,
cousins.
back to you. Cousins? Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and then the next one is in the mobility element, 1.20 on page 5. refers to the city's transportation financing program in TIF. What is TIF?
Oh. TIF is an acronym for Traffic Impact Fee. So each new development that is approved, before it can get its building permit for a new building, they pay a fee that is, goes in towards a fund to help pay for road and pedestrian and bicycle improvements.
Okay. Okay. And is this a draft or just for our own information?
No, these are all approved in the general plan.
Okay. There's a, on page 7, there's a little typo. Should I just skip that?
Typos
or
we
do you
can
wanna-
fix.
You want to know? Okay. Sorry. 5.2, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, there's an extra A.
Oh,
Yeah. It's super highlighted.
Bay Area awesome
Yeah. Bay Area.
quality
Nice.
management district.
Okay, next is U 9.1 on page 11. Again, the 15% energy efficient standard improvement. Curious about that 15% also.
Yeah, that's the Title 24 REACH code.
Oh, the
It's
same
very
thing?
similar, yes.
Yeah.
And this is talking about, a REACH code. Now, there's, the general plan was several years in the making. I understand there's a new state law that is discouraging REACH codes. So we'll need to do some research on that. State law is constantly cooking up new rules for us. And I think what the state is thinking is some of these new REACH codes could make housing more expensive. So it may disqualify housing, but it may not disqualify other forms of new development. We need to learn a little more about that.
Do you know how it would do that?
Well, I need to learn a little more about what the rules are on the new REACH code for the state.
Okay.
It's a fairly recent law.
So the law is in place already?
I believe it is.
Okay, next, ENV 3.2 on page 14. This is the one where it refers to the net zero climate pollution by 2030. And, recall the city talked about that. Do they do some kind of a policy on that, right? So the county has expanded it to 2045. And I believe in the spring, all the jurisdictions in Napa County will be taking on that 2045. So it's already going to be out of date. It's too late. We can't add a asterisk soon to be changed or something like that.
Well, the general plan does say 2030. And so the Napa Climate Action Plan would be adopted by each individual jurisdiction. And so if our policy is 2030 and we're adopting it, there'll be a robust discussion about what we do.
Okay. And then
That'll be an interesting conversation when that happens.
would that just be a new policy that would kind of override this section of the general plan, or we'd have to open up the general plan and correct it in there too?
We'll need to discuss that at the time. I can't answer that question right
Mystery,
now.
okay.
But your question's, I think, very relevant and is going to be a discussion point when the Climate Action Plan comes forward.
Okay. ENV 3.6 on page 15, another 15%. Oh, is that the same thing that Title 24? Okay,
Oh, okay. We really
Okay.
like that one, I guess.
yeah. Still curious how all these numbers came about. I think that's all of them. Let me double check. Yeah, this was so good. This was really fun to read, and I was, wondering if all of the things that we do and the things that we've highlighted in our low-hanging fruit, and the list of the 30 would be incorporated. And it seems like it's general enough that all that stuff could fit in here. So, and then maybe we have some flexibility to add more too. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Shavaria?
Wasn't Kate?
No, Kate's next after Debbie.
Hi, Brent. I just wanted to say thank you so much for putting this together. It was great. I enjoyed reading everything, and it was very informative. I also wanted to comment on your slide on number 9, when you said the Highway 29 project initiation document. When you brought up just now the landscaping. Now, that's something that's been on my mind for a very long time. And I have friends and guests who come and say, wow, that'd be great if there was, some beautiful flowers or some beautiful landscaping around. And I think that that would help, of course, absorb pollutants and also beautify our drive up Valley.
Right.
And so thank you for bringing that up. I would definitely, be an advocate for that. And so that is going to be on my to-do list.
Right. And a heat island as well. I mean, there's so many reasons why it's a good idea.
Yes. And also, what Tara just brought up about the climate action in 2030. So is there a timeline? Now, I know that you gave us, an outline of everything, but a timeline to specifically get us to our goals? Would that be available, or would we be working on that together, or how does that?
Well, the timeline is 2030, and the vehicle largely, I mean, all of these things that we're doing contribute positively towards helping with climate neutrality, but it's probably the largest one, in my opinion, I'm no scientist, would be the Climate Action Plan for Napa County. And so there are, I brought the appendix with the implementation measures. There's a lot of pages here in very small font. So each jurisdiction will have a menu of things that will help diminish carbon generation. And so perhaps some jurisdictions may be more aggressive than others. It wouldn't be hard to imagine, right? We're all different places with different philosophies and different priorities. So there's a lot of material here that can help with that.
And I'm curious, because the council did approve hiring someone for the low-hanging fruit, and if that person would then help with the timeline?
I believe so. There was a council discussion about that not long ago. And in fact, Chair Mattson asked about it today. It's being administered through the city manager's office, and I think they are working now on, what was the term they used? Matt, could you remember? They're working on it.
Yeah. Basically, that we wouldn't have an update tonight on it, that they're working on it.
They're
not
working on it.
Get back to us, so, but it is
Yes,
moving
a
forward.
person will help with that.
Thank you very much.
I think we'll all work on it, but that person will, yes, specifically.
Yes, Commissioner Bitt?
It's either on or off.
Hello.
You don't have to hit it.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. That was a really great presentation, and I feel like previously I've done a lot of public commenting on this general plan to both the OSATS Commission and the City Council, and so it's really interesting and really exciting to see this come to fruition. But I was wondering about one of the slides, slide 6, covering fuel station moratorium. Was just kind of wondering, and looking for clarity about the proposed gas stations and I guess kind of their relevance, and if there's a possibility that it could overrule the no new gas stations policy, because I do think that it's really important to uphold the no new gas station policy that we adopted a few years ago, because not only is it an amazing message of commitment and action that American Canyon is actively taking towards addressing the climate crisis, but also it's one of the most effective steps towards reaching our goal of net zero climate pollution by 2030, which is also specified in the general plan.
Yes, thank you. It is in an ordinance, and it's consistent with the general plan as well. So if we were to go backwards, which at this vantage point today, I'm not sure how that would happen, but you'd have to go back and amend the general plan and So it's there. It's definitely there.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarity.
Commissioner Christian?
Just a technical thing here on page 24. Safety policy S-3.3. BCDC is the Bay Conservation and Development Commission. And it's in here under the Bay Development and Conservation District.
Oh, thank you.
So I think it should be BCDC, Bay Conservation and Development Commission.
Thank you. Which policy was that again?
It's page 24, it's S, safety, dash 3.3.
Takes many eyes to write a general plan. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, thank you.
Commissioner Hughes?
That extra A is still bugging me. Just wonder if I could get a new copy.
Rest easy, we'll take care of that.
Thanks for the presentation. That was nice. Sorry I was late. I had a question. Moving forward with sustainability and such, with the current attitude that we have from like the federal government, do you guys have concerns that funding, I know maybe it's all state funding, but any federal funding is going to get cut, or has there been any discussion about just the well, again, the changes in attitude? Is that a concern?
Well, there's always a concern when funding sources might not materialize that we hope for. But it isn't unusual that there's a pendulum of more and less funding sources could dry up because economies change. I know that state of California has done that, and so at different times, and so it's part of the landscape. I think what we need to do is stay focused on what we can do, and there are a lot of ways in which sustainability can be pursued, and so obviously funding sources always help that, but we can't let it deter us and discourage us.
You stay the course. Okay. Thanks.
My turn. So, I'm really excited about this. This list is overwhelming. And so I put my little researcher engineer hat on today, which was probably disastrous for my day, but I understand it more. There's lots of overlap between policies. And so I wonder if there's a way to simplify it in some way so that you're not chasing, did you say 230 policies or something like that? Yeah. So is there a thought of trying to, I know you've grouped things, which is helpful. But even across those groupings, there was some duplication. So I guess one thing is I'm wondering about the next steps. And I also, of course, have comments that I typed up because there were too many. So I decided to look through the general plan to see which things you'd selected and which ones you hadn't, and were there some you hadn't that maybe we should include. And I think there's about 80. I don't know, I counted really fast.
Additional ones to include?
Additional ones, but I think they overlap a lot. So, I think we have to find a way to simplify it, because I don't know, maybe you can track all the policies, but it's going to be a lot of work I think. But I'll let you respond, because
Okay,
you're
Chair
on the
Matz,
tip of
yes.
your tongue.
The general plan is a living document, so
Yeah.
the general plan is never finished. In the same way, the city is never finished. Fresh ideas are never finished. Better ways of doing things, they're always there. And so certainly, the policies could be consolidated. That would take someone to do that, which would take you away from doing something else. So there's kind of a trade-off there. Part of maybe what you can think about even though it may not be as efficient because there is overlap and duplication, the way I would look at it is, if there is something sustainable we're trying to achieve, can you find a policy in here? Now, maybe you can find 4 policies. That's it's not a bad thing, I would say. It may not, they may say similar things, but it's there. No one can deny that it's there. So sometimes if we try to be too efficient, the wording may not catch something that
Yeah.
Particularly if there is somebody whose interests they feel are harmed by something the city is doing. And if it's finely tuned, it could say, well, it doesn't cover this. So that can happen sometimes too. So perhaps it errs on the side of more at the expense of efficiency.
Yeah, and
So
I can see that.
That's just different ways of looking at it. Not that
Yeah.
it couldn't be and maybe should be simplified and better, but it does take someone who's really smart, perhaps scientific.
I walked right
Offer
into
that.
one. No, actually, I get why, I get why there are many policies and there's some overlap, but I'm more concerned about how we as a city will track specific things to report on them. And if there's a way to kind of figure out what are the important things. So like when I'm going through all these lists, we have open space was identified, a lot of active transportation was identified, sustainability was identified. So there's a lot of things in the general plan that support all 3 parts of our reason to be. And I think in my email to you, I was talking about how these general plan policies, is there a way to map them onto our interim climate change plan or the RCAP, so that it's easier to track and report. And I get how you would have things written specifically in the general plan so you don't have any loopholes that cause problems later. So, but I wasn't sure if this effort was going to go on to do this other mapping, or if it's just this enormous effort to have pulled these out. So.
Well, we do have a lot of sustainable programs in process. So as they're completed and implemented, we'll have work products and actions that one can point to general plan policies that are being fulfilled. And so I'm not particularly concerned that we won't do a good job of being able to show the connections between them.
Will we be able to, I get that, good. Will we be able as a city to show our progress in specific sustainability areas?
Yes, we all.
Okay, and we could use that as a structure.
Like for the dashboard.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the document, which was amazing, and I had to think about it in 4 different ways. And one way I looked at it too was the implementation programs, to try to see which of the policies you identified actually are in progress. And there's a fair number, I don't know, probably 100 of them, I'm not sure. But I thought that would be a way to track this stuff. And I did see some duplication of policies in your policy list. So there's some policies that instead of putting the next one in, and I can't remember which number it is, but for instance, U 8.8 is there twice. And probably it should have been U 8.9 after that.
Oh.
So rather than tell you all these things, I could read it all out to you to get it in the public record, but I thought I would just type up which policies I thought we might want to consider for this list. and which ones I thought, uh-oh, we duplicated one and didn't get the right one in. So I hope you will accept my
Oh, I
my
appreciate
meager
that.
4-pager, and I have copies for everybody.
No, I
so-
appreciate that. Thank you for doing all that effort, and you won't get back this day, so I appreciate that you've spent your day doing this.
Yes, it's okay with Randy. So I'll send it to you by email too.
Thank you.
So I just went through your main policy.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with also having done a lot of technical editing in my career, so it's kind of hard to not get into that. But also I was concerned about how are we going to move forward in terms of OSAT's goals to know which policies, which issues are moving forward, and we can push harder on them. So, and we have Commissioner Christian, right?
Yeah, just a comment on your comment. I think I noticed a little bit of what you're thinking about. It's a little too technical for me, but I'm trying to follow it. But when I was looking in the housing element, I found it said plant trees in residential areas. I go, oh, I got to write that down. I got to talk to Brent, because we don't just need them in residential areas. But then when I was reading further, I found other places where it said plant trees. I found a lot of places where it said plant trees, which is good. I like that. But I can understand then you've got it in 4 different places. As long as it's in there, I can find it. Maybe it's not easy to track, but as long as it's in there and I just keep looking, I know that I can find it. So I'm happy with that. Thanks.
I think so. We have to think about who we are as a community. It's evolving, and you're helping it along.
And actually, I think this sustainability coordinator could use this work to focus where they're working. So we'll see what evolves. Okay, any more comments from the commission? Let's open it for public comment. We have any?
Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment? You, please go up to the podium and state your name.
Hi, some of you I know, some of you I don't. I'll tell you who I am. I'm Tanya, and I'm a Napa County Master Gardener, but I also live in American Canyon. And you talk about the low-hanging fruit. I see it every day, and it drives me crazy. Places where we can make really simple changes that would make huge, differences. So just talking about trees, do we have any programs that encourage people to keep their trees? Have you noticed, residences are cutting down their trees all the time?
So
All the time.
we don't have a tree removal permit fee? Okay.
Yeah, so that's just one thing. I'm like, it's, I don't know if it's a cultural thing. Like for me, growing up with trees are really important, but people who come from maybe different places in the world see trees and the mess that trees make as it's dirty, but it's just a cultural sort of view of what that is. So like an education program to maybe teach people that trees are important, their leaves are important, things like that. And I see lots of things in here where I could find a lot of low-hanging fruit for you. So whoever wants to use me, I want to be helpful. That's all. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to make public comment? And there's no one on Zoom.
Okay, any additional comments, next steps? I see nobody pushing their light, so what's the next plan?
Well, we'll go forth and implement the general plan, and we'll be reporting on it coming up in the next beginning of next year. So, but thank you, Chair Mattson, for your suggestions. We'll take a look at that. That will be a next step. And also, I'll have a conversation as well with the city manager on what might be the most practical way to document and format progress. And I'm sure they'll be thinking of that too as they're working forward to hiring the sustainability coordinator.
Great, thank you. Any last questions? Looks like we're all good. Okay, so at 7:32, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. Thank you.